Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this Saturday session of the OBX Wave Report. It is Saturday, March the 18th, and it is cloudy out here in the Outer Banks. There is some wind blowing from the north. I believe right now winds are blowing from the north-northeast here in Manio and out on the coastline at Jeanette's Pier as a front is now just sweeping across the US east and southeast. A very large frontal system. I did want to show you the total cloud water monitor from Earth Null School here, which provides a very clear picture of where the clouds are, or at least where the water in the clouds is. And you can see this water in the clouds running through Texas, the Gulf of Mexico, sweeping up along the eastern seaboard and then curling back across Canada and portions of the Great Lakes. There's a high pressure system out offshore that's slowly retreating toward the east. And then we have colder air moving in from the west, although not as cold as recent cold impulses. But what I will say is that the multiple cold air impulses and westerly winds that we've received have done their number on ocean water temperatures here in the Outer Banks, particularly for the coastline running from, say, Duck on southward. And here, for example, just off Jeanette's Pier, we've got 48-degree water temperatures. Down at Rodanthe, 48-degree water temperatures as well. So 40-degree waters extending past Oregon Inlet right now. You have to get down to Avon to get ocean water temperatures in the mid 50s, which is still rather cold, and then Buxton at 59, still below the 60-degree mark. I was hoping we'd start to see the turnaround in ocean water temperatures, but we have not as yet. And with that tendency for westerly winds pushing the Gulf Stream offshore, letting the Labrador Current invade from the north, and for colder air to come down from the north and west, I'm kind of wondering when the ocean water temperatures will start to warm up. Will it be late March, or do we have to wait until the start of April? But in any case, waves are not too bad today, in the range of 1 to 6 feet up and down the Outer Banks. We've got a variety of wave conditions as we typically do. So a brief summary of conditions for the Outer Banks. Let's see, I guess I can get a little bit more in depth. So for the North Beaches, we've got 1 to 3 foot waves. Um, North Beaches meaning from Jeanette's Pier on northward. For the Central beaches, for example, Rodanthe and Avon, we've got mostly 2 to 3 foot waves, waves, Salvo, places like that. And then down at Buxton and southward, we've got 5 to 6 foot waves. So bigger waves southward, with those southwest winds having blown up a large south swell for the south facing beaches and the beaches that are more likely to get a large wraparound swell. And this larger south swell is continuing to wrap around as it heads on up the strand, although producing smaller waves as it wraps around. All right, so let's get more into the weather and climate picture that affects the lower 48 and the North Atlantic. Of course, we're providing this context, this weather and climate context, to just keep a monitor on conditions that do affect both the Outer Banks, the lower 48, and the North Atlantic, because all of these things impact those of us here on the coast. And right now, we do have another atmospheric river that's gathering impetus for a storm that's expected to sweep into California. Looks like Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. So it's a train of moisture heading toward California yet again. So please pay attention to your local weather and emergency management folk for any severe weather alerts out there, guys. More frequent severe storms and droughts are a hallmark of climate change driven by fossil fuel burning, and have certainly impacted California more than their fair share. California being rather vulnerable to extremes, and looks like one of the hot spots for extreme weather, both in the form of drought and flood. Uh, so please stay alert, guys, out there in California as another atmospheric river-based storm heads your way. And then looking at NOAA's geocolor composite, we can see that beautiful front sweeping across the U.S. East and the Gulf Coast region, trailing some clouds through Texas, tapping into moisture from two oceans here, from the Pacific and from the Atlantic and from the Gulf of Mexico, actually. So three big bodies of water helping to fuel this front and the storms associated with it. And then we've got that next impulse of stormy weather lurking offshore. Lights haven't really turned on for our friends out west, so we wish you guys a good morning as we report on waves for the east coast. All right, and then looking at the enhanced cloud tops, you can see some of the stronger storms associated with the front sweeping offshore off the U.S. East Coast. Some looks like some rough weather possibly gathering in through Texas. Not sure if there's any thunderstorms embedded in this. Doesn't look too bad. And boy, do those enhanced cloud tops pop as the next pulse off that atmospheric river lurks off the U.S. West Coast. Getting down to the radar imagery, it's an update for this morning, and we do still have gale warnings in effect for Oregon Inlet south to looks like Morehead City. And then areas north, we've got small craft advisories. Still have some frost and freeze warnings for some of the areas out west as another batch of cold air sweeps behind this front. And we've got some rain lingering across the Outer Banks. This rain is expected to move offshore later in the day as the front moves offshore. And it's actually in the process of moving offshore now. We might still get a few showers here in the Outer Banks over the next few hours, but then as we get into afternoon and evening, we are likely to see some clearing as that cold air sweeps in from the north and west. And out on the U.S. West Coast, we are starting to see some coastal statements. Looks like some gale warnings up for parts of California, and then some looks like some flood watches and some alerts up for the mountain regions. Nothing too crazy as yet, but winter storm watch is up right now. Nothing too crazy as yet. Let's hope it doesn't get too crazy for California this time around. Okay, so getting down to the local observations for the Outer Banks. We're going to start up here at Jeanette's Pier. Also going to provide a brief observation for Bathhouse. Actually, let's just go ahead and start at Bathhouse up here um, in the Nag's Head, Kill Devil Hills region. Right now, waves at Bathhouse in the range of 2 to 3 feet. Most of the waves in the range of 1 to 3 feet for most of the northern beaches, as I mentioned before. Heading on to Jeanette's Pier for our first complete observation, we've got 2 foot waves breaking at Jeanette's Pier, 27 mile per hour north-northeast wind, which is onshore with that northeast cant to the coastline. Primary swell coming in at 15 seconds out of the northeast, about 1.3 feet. And we got a secondary swell coming in at the southeast, 2.5 foot swell wrapping around. That combination gives us those 2 foot wave measurements. Um, Present air temperature is 46 degrees outside, and ocean water temperature is rather cold at 48 degrees Fahrenheit. Not very pleasant there in the ocean. Please make sure you've got your cold weather protection to keep you warm. Make sure you've got your wetsuits all together. Was out there surfing yesterday down at Avon with a new surfer, and both of us experienced some numbness in our hands and feet after spending about an hour in the surf. So definitely need to keep warm and pay attention to your cold weather protection. And it also helps to have someone there to help you dry off. My wife Kat was there helping us out, and it was just really a wonderful help to have just even a little assistance as you kind of stumble out of the water, feeling kind of like a little bit of that, you know, I don't know if that's you. Well, maybe first stage hypothermia, where you're a little bit, not completely 100%. But in any case, please pay attention out there and stay safe and warm and keep your warm weather gear all together because we've got some cold water temperatures out there right now. And um, Now, moving on down south to Rodanth, I'm going to try and do a quick report here because I've got an engagement that have to get to, and I have to get myself presentable for that. But yeah, moving on down south to Rodanth, we've got 2 to 3 foot waves as well. Um, Oh, and I will make a statement about the weather. We expect rain for Jeanette's Pier and a high today of 53, clearing late. All right, moving on down south to Rodant, we've got 2 to 3 foot waves, winds out of the north at 26 miles per hour. That is a cross-shore flow. Primary swell coming in from the south at 9 seconds. That's a 3.5 foot swell just right along the coastline. Then we've got an northeast swell coming in at 1.1 feet at 14 seconds. Air temperature is 51 degrees, ocean water temperature 48. Um, Forecast for today, rain high of 54, clearing late. And down south at Avon, we've got 2 to 3 foot waves. They're going to head on past the 2 to 3 foot waves at Avon to Buxton, where the waves are 5 to 6 feet. We've got a wind coming in from the northwest at 14 miles per hour, which is an offshore flow. Primary swell coming in at 14 seconds. That is 1.4 feet. Not very large, out of the northeast. And then a secondary swell coming on just right along the coast at 8 feet and 8 seconds. That swell is wrapping around to provide those larger waves. Air temperatures are 56 degrees, much warmer down there at Buxton. Ocean water temperatures much warmer there at 59, but not warm by any stretch. And rain today, high of 57. We're close to there already. And then just around the coastline, we've got a direct swell coming in to Billy Mitchell. Large swell in the range of about 8 feet from the south and 5 foot waves breaking onshore there. So there's our roundup for waves across locations in the Outer Banks. Actually, I don't think I'm going to go through a really detailed climate picture right now because I've got pressed for time, but we do have more warm air invading the Arctic from the Siberian side and the Bering Sea area today. More cold air sweeping down through the U.S. Excuse me. And on the anomaly map, you can see the warm air invasion on the Bering Sea side of the Arctic, with that most recent cold air impulse heading down through the central U.S. And just generally rather warmer than normal across the globe today, with the Antarctic being the only colder than normal location in the world today. Looking at the NOAA quantitative prediction forecast, we've got some more storms predicted for this week across California and the West Coast. Looking at this map, it doesn't look as intense as last week, so that is thankful. We could get some intense precipitation for the higher elevations of the Rockies, for the central U.S., as the hot and cold air go to war with each other, possibly producing some severe weather, and then off the U.S. East Coast with some potential for coastal storm nor'easter type development. And then for our convective outlook, we've got no major severe thunderstorm risk over the next 3 days. And then getting out to our weather models, I'm just going to show you guys the model forecast for the next few days as the storm is expected to sweep on off the U.S. East Coast, this most recent frontal boundary. Previously, the front was expected to stall across the Gulf and produce a bit of a nor'easter, but as we get into middle of next week, that is not expected to happen. We get more of a southwesterly flow across the Gulf and the Atlantic, pushing up some moisture into the next storm system that's expected to fire up over the central U.S. and possibly warmer conditions for the Outer Banks with that southwesterly flow. And looking like the cold air doesn't get as far to the south over this week. So we're just going to have to keep an eye on our temperatures. Might be getting some warmer weather in store for the Outer Banks. And then last of all, for our wave forecast, we're going to do a really quick wave forecast right now. Let's get conditions to now and get our wave in feet. And right now we've got mainly southerly swell off the coast in the range of about 6 feet. For tomorrow, this is expected to turn around to the north in the range of about 5 feet. And then by Monday, this is expected to turn more to the east in the range of about 3 feet. Looks like calmer conditions on Monday. And then by Tuesday, also rather calm with waves in the range, near coastal waves in the range of 2 to 4 feet with a primary east facing swell. And then by Wednesday, the general swell just continues to move in from the east. Looks like waves build up a little bit in the range of about 2 to 5 feet by Wednesday. So thank you for joining me for this session of the OBX Wave Report. I did not get to do a special Friday for Future session on Friday because Friday was really busy. So what I am going to do is get a Friday for Future special put together for you guys this weekend at some point, probably on Sunday. So thank you for joining me again, and please remember to do everything you can to help speed the transition to clean energy being wind, water, solar, and electric vehicles. And if we do that, we can defend our coastlines, our beautiful coastlines, our coral reefs, our beaches, our sandbars from the impacts of climate change driven by fossil fuel burning.